You're listening to the Inflamed and Exhausted Podcast, the show for women who are tired of being tired. I'm Lieah Torbert, CEO and co-founder of Wellness by Davlie, and I've been where you are, burned out, foggy, and wondering why my body couldn't just bounce back like it used to. On this podcast, we'll uncover the real reasons behind your fatigue, inflammation, and hormonal shifts, and I'll give you practical tools and guidance to support your body, restore your energy, and take back your health, one small step at a time. Let's get to it. Hey there, and welcome back to the show. If you're starting or restarting an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, today's episode is one that I wish someone had handed me at the very beginning of mine, because I did it the hard way. Let me ask you something. Have you ever started changing your food, trying new supplements, maybe even working out more, but still felt like nothing was really shifting? Well, that was me for almost 2 years. And today I'm sharing the one thing I wish I had done before I started changing anything, getting clear data on what was actually happening inside my body. Because here's the truth, no matter how healthy something is, it can't fix what you're not addressing. So when I decided that I needed to make changes in my life, I did what most people do. I cut out fried foods and sugary sweets. I added more tea, drank less coffee, started walking more, even tried a few anti-inflammatory recipes that I found online. But I was still waking up tired, still feeling wired at night and exhausted in the morning, and still struggling to lose the extra pounds that I had put on. And the worst part of it was I had no idea why it wasn't working. I was guessing. I was throwing tools at symptoms without having a clue as to what the root cause was. I didn't know if my hormones were off. I didn't know why my sleep wasn't restorative. I didn't realize that I had vitamin deficiencies. So I kept tweaking, adjusting, and restricting, and getting increasingly more frustrated because nothing I did seemed to work. I had talked to my doctor about what I was going through, and all I kept hearing was that it would all go away if I just got back on birth control. And since I was getting older, I should just expect that I wasn't going to feel as great as I used to. Add to that getting diagnosed with long COVID in 2023, which no one knew what to do with, and things just kept getting worse. I started looking for alternatives to my traditional doctor to get the blood work that I needed to try and find the cause of my issues. And once I was able to see my lab results in my hands and understand what was actually happening in my body, things started to make a lot more sense. Now, I chose to work with a company called Function Health because I am a huge data nerd and I wanted as much information as I could get for my investment. But you don't have to go that far. There are a handful of tests that I think are really important to help rule out some conditions that could be contributing to your inflammation and exhaustion, help you identify what you should be working on improving. So here's where I recommend starting. Number 1, have your high sensitivity HS-CRP and your fasting insulin tested. These are two of the most overlooked but powerful markers. So HS-CRP tells you how much inflammation is active in your system right now. It won't tell you exactly where it's coming from, but it's a red flag when it's elevated. And it gives you a sense of urgency because you're confirming that something is going on. Your fasting insulin is even more important than getting your glucose measured, especially early on in the process, because it shows how hard your body is working to keep your blood sugar stable. If your insulin is elevated after a fast, it's an early warning sign for metabolic dysfunction, because what happens when you stop eating is your body processes all the food that you've eaten. And so over a period of time fasting overnight, at least 8 hours, typically longer, you shouldn't have a whole lot of sugar left hanging around in your bloodstream. So if you do your fasting insulin and it's higher, that means your body is not processing sugar the way that it should be. So these two indicators together can give you a solid snapshot of your inflammatory baseline. The next test that I recommend doing is getting a full thyroid panel. Typically, a standard blood panel will just test TSH, but you want to ask your doctor to make sure that they're testing TSH, free T3, free T4, and then thyroid antibodies, TPO and TGAB. And the reason why you want to do this is because your TSH can look normal even while your active thyroid hormones are tanking. And thyroid dysfunction mimics symptoms like fatigue, brain fog, dry skin, and constipation. So basically, every symptom that you might be blaming on inflammation could be because of a thyroid dysfunction. So you want to make sure that you have that rolled out right away. The third set of tests that I recommend is to get a cortisol and hormone panel. If you're waking up tired or you're wired at night and crashing by mid-afternoon, this is definitely something that you should look into. You want to get your cortisol test done over a period of time. So just testing in the morning or in the afternoon is not going to give you a clear indication of what's going on. So you want to do a cortisol test over an entire day. So they take different samples throughout the day so that they can see what's happening to your cortisol during your normal circadian rhythm. And if you have a flatlined or flipped pattern, it's a huge clue that your body's stress response is stuck. For women, I definitely want you to get a full sex hormone panel. This can help reveal imbalances in estrogen, progesterone, and androgens that affect everything from your mood to your energy to inflammation. And especially as we start getting older and moving into perimenopause and menopause, the hormone fluctuations can get pretty crazy. So we want to make sure that we're checking to see if there's something there that we should be looking at as well. The fourth thing is to look at nutrient panels. Now, you don't need a full micronutrient scan. You can get one if you want, but big players in inflammation and exhaustion, you want to look at vitamin D, which is essential for your immune regulation and inflammation control. And the majority of people in the United States are deficient in vitamin D. We don't get enough sunlight. We don't consume enough of it through our food, what little bit we can. And we cover ourselves with sunscreens and wear our sunglasses because we're concerned for things like skin cancer, but without realizing that when we use those sunscreens, we're blocking the same rays that help our bodies generate vitamin D. And so a lot of us are deficient without even realizing it. B12 is also another one that's very important. It's needed for energy, focus, and nerve health. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, looking at B12 supplementation is going to be very important to you because B12 in today's modern environment really can only be taken through eating meat or through supplementation because our soil is so depleted that the bacteria that we used to have to generate the B12 in the soil isn't really there anymore. So we don't get enough of that B12 through the foods that we're eating if you're just doing vegetables. So you want to really make sure if you're a vegetarian or vegan that you're looking into that one. And then the third one is one that I've struggled with a lot in my life, which is checking your iron and ferritin levels. So iron and ferritin are critical for oxygen transport, but low levels also increase fatigue and brain fog. When I was younger, in my teens and early 20s, I had recurring instances of anemia. And my doctors didn't really tell me what caused it or anything. They just told me to take some iron and I'd be better. And then as I got older, I guess my diet changed because I didn't have those problems anymore. But then as I've gotten older, hitting perimenopause, and for those in perimenopause out there, your periods can get really crazy, very heavy, and your body has a hard time really replacing the nutrients that it's losing through that process. And so when I was experiencing just devastating exhaustion and brain fog, one of the things contributing to that was my low ferritin level. So I did my lab tests and my results came back and I had an 11, and the doctor's telling me I should have at least a 50. So I was way, way low. And as soon as I started taking iron supplementation, and I'm not going to go into the supplements themselves in this episode, but there's very specific types of supplements, specific forms and combinations that help with absorbing in the body. And so I had to do some research to figure out which one was really going to be best for my particular situation. But it really helped reduce the fatigue and exhaustion and brain fog that I was going through. So it was a big improvement in my life. So I definitely recommend it. Even subtle deficiencies in these vitamins can make it hard for your body to really do the things that it needs to do every day. So it's really important to check the levels And if you do come back and your levels are low, make sure you talk to your doctor about the types of supplements and the forms of the vitamins that are going to be best for your situation. And then in 6 months, do a retest and see how you're doing. The fifth thing that I want to talk about today is getting a sleep study done. This is one that I fought for a really long time because I just thought, I don't have sleep apnea. I don't feel like I wake up that much. I know I snore, but who doesn't, right? And I finally broke down after my boyfriend constantly was like, hey, you really need to get one of these. He has sleep apnea and he has the machine and he swears by it. It's like, okay, I'll go get the test. And my test came back negative, which he keeps telling me I need to go get another one, and I probably will next year. I'm going to wait a little bit longer and see how things go with other things that I'm working on and then retest again. But a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have you do a home test study first. So they send you home with this little packet and you attach everything and then you go to sleep and it records different data from what's going on in your body. And then you take the box back to the facility and they process the recording and then they give you a reading that says, we think you have sleep apnea or you don't. And then what your options are for moving forward. And so a lot of times you'll start with that home study because it's cheaper and the insurance will approve that. And then if you don't think that your home results are correct, you can then ask for an in-facility sleep study. So you'll actually check into an outpatient facility somewhere that does the sleep testing and you stay overnight, and it's a more in-depth monitoring that they do with that, which is why the insurance a lot of times makes you do the home study first. So that second study is probably what I'm going to do next year after I work through some other things that I'm doing. When you have sleep apnea, what actually happens is you stop breathing. And obviously we need oxygen to live. And so if we're not getting proper oxygen in our sleep, our bodies aren't functioning correctly, our brains aren't functioning correctly. So we're definitely not going to be performing optimally under those conditions. When you're thinking about your sleep, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you're waking up a lot, if you snore, if you're feeling exhausted when you wake up, it could be a sleep apnea issue. So you may be dealing with periods of low oxygen during the night, and chronic low oxygen can lead to chronic inflammation. Even if you feel like this might not be something that applies to you, it doesn't hurt to get the test done just to check and make sure. And then the sixth thing that I want to cover today is something that I don't recommend for everyone right off the bat, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. There are tests that you can do to check the health of your gut. So if you're dealing with persistent bloating, irregular bowels, food sensitivities, things like that, you can do stool testing, which can help identify things that may be going on inside your gut that are harder for us to see. And so you want to look for panels that check bacterial balance, parasites, yeast overgrowth, and inflammatory markers. A good GI test is going to help you confirm whether you're dealing with a low-grade infection, whether you have enzyme issues, or if something is just disrupted in your microbiome. So if you're not having real big gut issues right now, don't get this one right away. But if you start working on your anti-inflammatory path and you realize as you're switching foods out, maybe your gut is a little more sensitive than it used to be, maybe you're more bloating, more gas, things like that, it may be something to look into just to rule out some other things that could be going on in your gut. So just keep that in mind. So once I did my testing with Function Health, and I was able to sit down and read through my results and go through the information that the doctor had given me, it made things a lot easier for me to figure out what I needed to focus on. I was able to stop wasting my energy on random changes that didn't fit what was actually wrong with my body. I could track real improvements instead of relying on how I felt that week, which there's a lot that could go into why you're feeling the way you're feeling, especially if you're like me in perimenopause. Some days, I don't know if it's my hormones, if it's my stress, if it's inflammation. There's all kinds of things going on. And so being able to remind myself day to day of these are my results. This is what was happening in my body when I took these tests. I know various fluctuations are going to be happening in my hormones through this perimenopause journey that I'm on. I can kind of take all of that and look at things a little more objectively and say, I think I'm moving in the right direction or I'm not. And that ultimately helps me stop second guessing everything that I'm doing because I know what to go back and look at when I have questions. I really wish that I had done this at the very beginning. A few years ago when I started this journey, I didn't even realize these kinds of tests existed. So I didn't know what questions to ask. So I'm hoping that if you're listening to this, that it helps give you some guidance when you go talk to your doctor about what it is you want to accomplish. And instead of throwing the alphabet soup at them, just go, hey, I want XYZ done. I understand these can be related to inflammation. I also want to rule out some other things that could be masking these symptoms. So I'm just trying to get healthy. So I hope this helps for that. Whether you're just beginning this journey or you're picking things back up after a break, just take a quick pause before you start diving into the protocols. Get clear on where you are. Start with the data, not from assumptions. Get the testing done first so you know what you're working with and where you can really spend the best of your efforts to improving your health. And when you're ready to build your routine around that data, that's where my new anti-inflammatory power reset membership can help. It's designed to meet you where you are and walk with you as you shift these habits, shift your energy and mindset without overhauling your life and overwhelming you with just too many things that you need to do. So inside the membership, you'll get clear guidance on building anti-inflammatory habits that actually stick. You'll get mindfulness and movement prompts that flex with your day so you can feel better and move better without stressing out more. And then you'll also get access to our member-only recipe vault that is continuing to grow as we're testing new recipes and trying out different things to help make eating simple instead of adding more stress to your day. The membership is for women who are ready to feel better, not someday, but week by week, step by step. So you don't have to do this alone. You just need a starting point, which is your labs, and then a rhythm that helps keep you going, which is our membership supporting you along the way. So if you're interested, you'll find the link to join in the show notes, and I'll also drop a link to Function Health with my promo code if you're interested in a deeper dive for your lab tests. Just to remind you, you don't have to go through Function Health. Go talk to your doctor and see if they'll run the tests for you. And if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Inflamed and Exhausted Podcast. If this episode helped you connect the dots or gave you a new perspective, I'd love it if you'd follow the show and leave a quick review. It helps more women find this message. If you're ready to take the next step, head on over to wellnessbydavlie.com where you'll find free tools, anti-inflammatory teas, and information on our brand new anti-inflammatory power reset membership. Remember, healing isn't about being perfect. It's about staying curious, staying kind to yourself, and taking the next best step. I'll see you next time.